Wow, just take a look at these views. You can see for miles and miles through this area. We are not out in the middle of nowhere today. We are in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. And today's adventure involves airplanes. That's right, we are at Wings of the North in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, and this should be really fun. Well, hello once again, everyone, and welcome to another beautiful day for an adventure. Today's adventure brings us up here to Eden Prairie, Minnesota at Wings of the North Air Museum. We have been to the commemorative Air Force Wing in West St. Paul on a previous adventure, and so I thought I would check out the north side of the airplane museums here in the Twin Cities. And I have never been to this location before, so as per usual, we will learn about it together. And if you are brand new to this channel, go ahead and hit subscribe so you don't miss out on a thing. This should be fun. Welcome to another edition of Tommy Travels. It's Tommy Travels. Come on with me, you guys. Let's go see what there is to see. And right there is where we came in. The museum is right over here, and we are initially greeted by this guy sitting in an actual ejection seat. This ejection seat was removed from this airplane right here by Wings of the North volunteers. And the plane that we're looking at here is now in display in Lakeville, Minnesota. This guy seems to be pretty comfortable sitting in that seat. It seems like that arrow should be pointing upwards, though. And we have just entered an airplane hangar here at Wings of the North. And we have come across someone who's going to give us a nice tour, and this is Bill Norris.
Hello.
Hello there. And what are we looking at here?
Well, the first thing that you see when you come through the doors here, we've got a couple of air-to-air missiles. The bottom one is an AIM-9 Sidewinder air-to-air missile. This is actually a mock-up. This one on top is the AIM-7 Sparrow missile. This is an actual AIM-7 with the warhead and the rocket propellant removed from it. And you can see we've got the tennis balls on the fence because they're pretty sharp.
Oh, yeah.
So,
wow.
That's the size of those things. They're good size. Here we've got a mock-up of a portable airfield, portable control tower, I should say. And this is something that was really a control tower, not in a box, but it was in about 3 boxes. Mm-hmm. And so this radio gear could be set up. And in fact, they did that here at a place in the South Pacific called Bella La Vella. They built a tower. And so this represents the view from that tower. And all this portable equipment would be set up very quickly, within a matter of a few hours. They had a working control tower. And the base at Bella La Vella was used by naval aircraft, would come in and land right on the beach.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that radio is like just sending in calls and things like that they would hear.
Yeah. And that's actually a radio monitoring the frequency of the control tower here at Flying Cloud Airport.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
Radio chatter sounds like radio.
Yeah.
This is a steerman. This is a primary trainer. So in other words, if you were a naval aviation cadet, this would be the first airplane that you would fly. You would sit in the front, and the instructor would sit behind you in the rear seat. This particular airplane was flown by a naval aviation cadet called George H.W. Bush.
Oh my, in this actual plane?
In this very plane, yes.
Oh my goodness.
Now, they did not have a personal airplane assigned to them. They were just sent out to fly a certain plane whenever they went on a mission. But we do know, because we have the aircraft logs, that President Bush actually did solo this airplane on 2 occasions. in January and in February of 1943.
And is this his autograph right up here?
Yes, it is. This
Oh,
plane
my
was undergoing
goodness.
restoration, so it was sent to him while he was convalescing down in Texas, and they sent that door down to him.
Oh, and there's him
Autographed it.
signing it. That's awesome.
Cockpit, so it's not very comfortable to fly in Minnesota during the wintertime.
Yeah, I imagine not.
President Bush said he wrote home to his mother and said that by the time he put on enough clothing to keep from freezing to death, he could barely fly the airplane.
Wow. And the Spirit of St. Louis up there.
Yeah, now that's a interesting artifact there. That's not an actual airplane. That's really a movie prop. And
Oh,
it's a 7/8 scale, so it's not quite as large as the original Spirit of St. Louis. But that's a movie prop built for a movie made in 1956, I believe, called The Spirit of St. Louis, and it starred Jimmy Stewart as Charles Lindbergh.
oh my goodness.
So there was a scene at the end of the movie where Lindbergh has landed in Paris, and he's surrounded by a mob of French people, and they're all very pleased that he's completed the first transatlantic flight. And that's the prop that was used to film that scene in the movie.
Oh my goodness.
Now
Jimmy
that
Stewart.
actually was on display at the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport for many years. And at a certain point, they wanted to remodel the terminal, so they took the Spirit down. They put it into storage, and when they got finished remodeling the terminal, they never put it back up again. So
Oh my
we've
goodness.
got it on loan to us from the Metropolitan Airport Commission.
That is
It's
amazing.
good to see it.
Wow.
And what some people don't realize, and it's kind of hard to see now because it's hanging up so high.
Yeah.
There was no windshield. So this was all gas tank up here. So there was he really had no forward vision at all except for a little periscope. And unlike in a submarine where the periscope goes up, this periscope protruded from the left-hand side of the fuselage and stuck out. So he would kind of stick that thing out there to get a look ahead of
Oh,
of
okay.
him. Otherwise, he would just kind of lean out the window a little bit and have a look that way.
Wow. No front windshield. I never
Yeah.
realized that.
Yeah, because he just had to fit gas tanks everywhere he could.
Yeah, to make sure it could get across.
Yeah.
That is unreal.
Well, it originally did not have any electrical system. And aircraft engines run on magnetos, so they don't really have to have a battery or anything like that. But it's a lot more convenient to fly an airplane if you do have a working electrical system. Without an electrical system, the way they would start this plane is somebody would have to stand on this tire, put a crank handle into this receptacle here, and turn the crank until they got the flywheel spinning at a high rate of speed. And then they would pull this clutch and engage the flywheel, and the propeller would turn and the engine would start. This airplane won awards for the most accurate restoration of a steerman at the EAA fly-in in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And after that was done, then they outfitted the airplane with an electrical system. So now it's got a starter and it's got radios, and
Yeah.
it's a lot easier. It's more practical to fly here in the metropolitan area, especially we're so close to the airport. You really need to have those things.
Yeah.
So
It's beautiful.
if you were a cadet and you didn't wash out flying the steerman, then your next move would be up to this plane, which is called an AT-6. AT stands for Advanced Trainer. And you notice that while the steerman is covered in fabric, this airplane has metal skin, the only fabric being on some of the control surfaces. So you can, if you like, you're welcome to step up onto the wing here.
Oh.
You just have to make sure to keep your feet on the black part here. And these are the foot pegs that the pilots used to use to climb aboard. We use them for handholds. So
Oh my
if
goodness.
you want to step up there and take a look inside the cockpit.
Wow. That is really, really cool. Look at that.
An actual warplane.
So once you're done with training, you start in this one over here,
That's right.
and then you move up to this one,
That's right.
and then you move on to an actual fighting plane.
Yes, you would go
Okay.
to you would go to a fighter or a bomber, and most of the people who signed up for flight training, they wanted to be fighter pilots. And if they could be a fighter pilot, they would be a bomber pilot.
Okay.
If they couldn't be a pilot at all, they maybe would be a navigator or a bombardier. And if they couldn't do those things, then they would try to qualify as an aerial gunner on a bomber.
Oh, okay.
So these were young men who signed up because they wanted to fly, and maybe you wanted to be a fighter pilot, you might end up as a gunner on a B-17 or something like that, but you were still flying. So
Yeah.
you got to do that, what you wanted to do. This is a Cessna 150 commuter. It's owned by Wings of the North, and this is something that some of our hardworking volunteers, if they wish, they can rent this airplane and go do some flying and take an instructor along and brush up on their skills. Cessna 150 is a two-seater, and so it's a lot of fun to fly. We put these little noodles on the back edge of the wing here.
Oh,
for the flap.
so people don't hit themselves.
And over here is the top turret for the AT-11. Now the different thing about this top turret compared to the top turret that you saw in the B-17 or B-24, it has a seat.
Oh, look at that.
The top turret gunners in a B-17 or B-24 had to stand up the whole time that they were operating the top turret. And I don't really know, but I suspect that the reason this turret assembly has a seat is that the AT-11 was really, it's a twin Beech airplane, and it's just not big enough, I don't believe, to have a full height
So this
turret
is
assembly. So,
this little bubble right here, right?
yeah, that's
Okay.
where the turret would stick out.
That is really cool.
Yeah, so on this one, it had 30 caliber guns. Actual planes used in combat would have a 50 caliber gun. This one is just a car that belongs to one of our pilots.
Oh,
Who
okay.
gave up his hangar and he needed a place to store the car for the rest of the winter.
Oh, okay.
There's a little bit more of a story behind this car. This car belonged to a fellow named Roger Christgau, who for 30 years was the owner of our P-51 Mustang, which is not here today, but it'll hopefully be back pretty soon. But Mr. Christgau owned the Mustang for, like I say, about 30 years. He also had a habit of driving Corvettes. He raced Corvettes. This was the first of his 3 Corvette racers. He had 2 silver ones and then a red one. This is his first one. It's a 1964 Corvette, and it's all original. It's got radial tires on it now, but other than that, it's really original. It's got the original paint and everything.
This is a what kind is it?
So this is a 1927 Dodge.
Wow.
And
1927.
it's here in the museum because it kind of goes along with the Spirit of St. Louis, which was also built in 1927.
Oh.
So we're getting a look at some 1927 technology here. And if you want to go and have a look at it, just watch your step here.
Yeah.
Step over that tow bar there.
Oh, and they've
Inside,
got the hats.
It's pretty sparse, by
Yeah.
standards of a modern car. But on the other hand, it's very nice too. It's got nice leather seating in it.
Nice, comfortable back seat.
Yeah.
Very
And it
nice.
still runs.
It still runs, huh?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
During nicer weather, our museum director will give people tours of the airport in this car. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Wow.
It still runs. Although the tow bar is never very far away in case it does act up. This is it's a World War II Jeep. It's 1942. It was not built by Willis, though. It was built by Ford.
Oh.
And this is something that happened a lot during World War II, that the companies that originated the product couldn't build enough of them to meet the need. So that's why you had, for example, B-24 Liberator bombers that were being built by a Ford Motor Company. Ford also built this Jeep. Jeep obviously is not a Ford brand, but they built these Jeeps under license from the Willis Jeep Company. And that's what they had to do to meet the demand. That's incidentally why people could not buy new cars during World War II, because all the auto manufacturers were building
Oh,
tanks and
military
airplanes
stuff.
and so forth. The TBM Avenger that we normally have on display here at the museum was a plane that was built by General Motors. Obviously, General Motors normally doesn't build bombers, but that's what they did during World War II. And Ford built B-24 Liberator bombers at their Willow Run factory during World War II. So this is a Ford Jeep, if you will. And it's got everything that it would have had during World War II, except the carbine on the dashboard here. But notice the manual windshield wipers.
Oh my goodness.
Also something that would not really pass safety standards today. That's where the gas tank was.
Oh my goodness.
So you were sitting on the gas tank.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but it's got the fire extinguisher, and it's got the jerry can on the back and the spare tire, and the shovel and the axe there on the side.
Oh yeah. All the little details.
Fit it out. And then the tires were non-directional treads, and they worked pretty good in mud, and also if an enemy came across the tire tracks, they couldn't tell which way you were going.
Oh, that's smart.
Because it's non-directional. These here, in fact, here's a list of people whose plaques are not up yet, but they're going to be inducted at the annual dinner on April 18th. And then the rest of the hall is down this hallway. And
look at all
the far
that.
end of the hallway, inductee number 1 is Charles Lindbergh.
Oh, really? All the way down there?
Yeah. So he was the first inductee when they started the hall in 1988. And every year there's anywhere from 2 to 8 people inducted. And so they're kind of in chronological order, in the order in which they were inducted to the Hall of Fame.
And then in the back of the museum, they've got all of these awesome models set up. There's an old flight simulator, and then model airplanes on the floor everywhere you look. This is a cool wooden model, and then the very early beginnings of modern aviation. This depicts the Piccard legacy. And what exactly is the Piccard legacy, you ask? Well, in the early years of flight aviation, research from balloon flights was essential to developing the scientific knowledge that would later take America into space. In 1936, world-famous balloonists Jean and Jeanette Piccard came to the University of Minnesota. And there is, in 1934, Jeanette Ridlin Piccard. She became the first balloonist and the first woman to ascend to the stratosphere. After her husband died, she became an advisor to NASA. And look at this one. This is a B-29 Super Fortress, the Great Artiste. The 509th Bomb Group had a short history since it was assembled for the express purpose of dropping the atomic bombs on Japan. And look at the size of this plane. It shows the airmen inspecting it. Look at that. I love all of the details with the people assembled around the table there.
There it is. You see that?
Unbelievably cool.
That's that plane.
And here's a look at the Hall of Fame, where we have people like Stanley Hubbard Sr. highlighted. Or John Ackerman, right here, John Ackerman, from 1897 to 1972. And here it is, the very first inductee of the Minnesota Aviation Hall of Fame, Charles A. Lindbergh, from 1902 to 1974. And many people think because it's the spirit of St. Louis that he might be from Missouri, but no, he is a native of Little Falls, Minnesota. He's one of Minnesota's own. And as we just look at all of the history in this hall, this would be a good place to say that this has been another successful adventure here today on Tommy Travels at the Wings of the North here in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. And there he is, Charles Lindbergh himself. And if you guys like what you saw here today, go ahead and hit like on my YouTube channel. While you're at it, go ahead and hit subscribe and the little bell notification next to it, and you can be the first to know when a new adventure comes out. Thank you guys so much for the support that you've given me so far, and until next time, I hope to catch you on the flip side.